Good afternoon, and it's our pleasure. It's my pleasure to be here. I would start to say a word, and I'll give you, Bob, to introduce yourself. So I'm Yaniv Harel, at the moment the Chief Strategy Officer of the Cyber Center of Tel Aviv University, but previously the GM of the Cyber Solutions Group of Dell, EMC previously, SVP at Signia, and other roles in the government. And it's a pleasure to be here within this community, being part of the Cyber Week from the origins, and seeing you as my friends to the same mission for more than a decade, and this is really great to be here. And with me, Bob, would you like to say a few words about your background?
Sure. Bob Flores, and by the way, I'd like to make a shout out to the Israeli Embassy from the United States. Where are all the people here? Are they all in here? Yeah, there they are in the back. Okay, great. Josh does an amazing job of gathering people up to come to the cyber conferences every year. So my background is I'm a big data guy. I was a big data guy when big data was a megabyte. It tells you how old I am. And was hired by the CIA, recruited out of graduate school to do big data, actually. And we didn't call them data scientists then, but and that led to doing more and more work with the technology people at CIA, mostly me complaining about the technology wasn't good enough to handle big data. And so if any of you have ever been in a role where you complained enough, then typically what they do is they come to you and say, well, you know, why don't you solve the problem? So I was challenged to do that one time, and unfortunately was successful. And so that launched actually a second career inside of CIA in the technology organization, which involved doing all kinds of technology stuff, including cybersecurity, which, of course, we didn't call cybersecurity at the time, but that's what it was. I thought I was going into CIA for a 4 or 5 year gig, and 31 years later, I walked out the door. So I now have my own little security consulting company, and I do a lot of advisory work for startup companies, many of whom are based in Tel Aviv. And so I have a daughter that lives in Jerusalem. I love coming to Israel. So, and we may get later on, if we have time, we'll talk about, you know, why I think Tel Aviv is, especially Tel Aviv, is so important to the cyber ecosystem. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Great. Bob, thank you. And, you know, only Manny and Lino can make CISOs Jedis and flying above Manhattan, etc. But at the real days, so CISOs have really concerns and challenges, and this is not so easy. Now, you on your current role, and even before, you met with so many CISOs. So what is your impression about what bothers CISOs these days? What are the challenges?
Oh, well, we should ask Tim. And you should ask him when he gets up here. Yeah, so I think that I'll tell you, the key thing about CISOs is the same thing I tell this to the CISOs, I also tell it to the new chief technology officers. Your number one goal in life is to understand more about the business that you're doing than your CEO knows. You need to understand your business, and that will guide you on what you need to be concerned about. Security and business is all about risk, right? But the risk you have at Goldman Sachs is very, very different than the risk you have at Milestone. And even if you have the same risk, the response to that risk is going to be different at Goldman Sachs than it will be at Milestone, than it will be at SolarWinds, than it will be at, you know, McAfee, wherever. You guys all know this, okay? So that also means you have to keep up with technology. You don't have to be God's gift to that technology, but you've got to be aware of it. And so when I see CISOs today who are totally unconcerned about what AI is going to do, I get upset. So AI is one of the things that everybody should be concerned about, concerned from a positive aspect and concerned from a negative aspect. The bad guys are fully embracing AI. That's the negative aspect of it. Not from their standpoint, obviously, but from your standpoint. From the positive aspect, man, AI is going to help you do your job. Well-trained models can absolutely be a boon for you. So the other thing is third parties. If you look at a lot of the major breaches around, a lot of them were caused by third parties that screwed up, and you didn't have a tight enough relationship with that third party to understand what was going on. So you've got to be worried about your third-party relationships. And those are my top two things. But I'd love to hear at some point what everybody in the room thinks their top two things are. So what do you believe?
You know, on my work with CISOs, I get the impression that from the CISO standpoint, it looks like the attackers, they get better. The cybercrime groups, they have budgets, they have R&D, they have all the resources. The management, they get better. The board of directors, the senior management, they ask the CISO, give me a brief, things like this. The regulators, they also get better. They put new regulations, etc. And the CISO stay the same. I mean, with almost like the same resources, the same challenges. And now there is AI. There is more challenges. So from many of the CISOs, the landscape really becoming more challenging from year over year. What is your impression about the progress? If you compare it to like 5 years ago or more, the organizations and the management perspective about the importance of cybersecurity, what is the difference today?
I think one of the things that's different is many of the CEOs and the boards of directors of companies have become complacent. And they've looked back and they've said, well, we funded, a cybersecurity program 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. So why do we have to keep doing that? And so the CISOs have an educational role to play. And you can't just keep, whining all the time. You have to educate all the people involved in the chain of command that this is an important thing. And you have to be reasonable about what you're asking for. I see many people going in and saying, well, gosh, this thing is only $20 million a year. Yet you could actually do the same thing for $15 a year. And, if you were smart about it. So you got to be smart about this stuff. And you got to teach your CEOs and teach your boards that the threat is real. And it's like the old adage, there's only two kinds of companies in this world, those that have been breached and those that don't know they've been breached. And it's true. And so and it's going to continue to be that way.
Bob, what do you think about I would say the attitude to innovation? I mean, we here in Israel and generally in the world, CISOs becoming positive to innovation. They understand what is the value and how good is it to be ahead of the next attack vector and things like this. On the other hand, part of the technologies are not mature enough. It's on the beginning, on the process. So what would you recommend? Many CISOs ask themselves, what should be the attitude to innovation? What do you think about it?
So I think that now a small startup company, this probably doesn't apply to. But once you get to be of a certain size, you should have create enough budget that you can carve out some kind of a lab. You can call it whatever you want, but you need to be able to bring in those new technologies and kick the tires on them to see if they're right for you. Every vendor in the world is going to come and tell you that you should buy their product or you're going to go down the tubes. That's what they do. They did that to me at CIA all the time. They didn't even know what we did, and they were telling us why we needed this product, okay? And and I'm sure this is happening to you as well. And and it's going to continue to happen, but you need to understand these technologies, and you need to understand what they can do and what they cannot do for you, so that you know what is the thing that you need to be able, put a wedge, as we call it, in the budget to be able to acquire whatever that tool is. Because remember, this is a whole cat and mouse game between you guys and the bad actors. And you're going to gain 2 steps, and then they're going to gain 2 steps. Maybe you'll gain another step. What you don't want to do is fall back a step, because that's disaster.
I think that we haven't spoken enough about AI yet. So you mentioned that it is a good thing that happened to us, but on the other hand, this is a threat. How do you think? I mean, which of the 2 sides is more dominant, and what should we do with all this revolution?
I think crises are always a good thing, because crises make you realize that you need to move a little faster, or you need to be much more efficient at what you're doing. And this used to happen to us in the government all the time. They'd say, "Oh, we're going to cut your budget by X amount," and so we would just kick back and say, "Well, okay, there's nothing we can do about that. How do we become more efficient so that we can work within the confines of whatever that new budget number is?" And it always worked out better that way at the end of the day, and it kept you on your toes. So.
Do you think we hear from many of the companies that many of the security functions that we're familiar with for many years will move to be AI-driven capabilities? The SOC will have AI analysts, and the identity will be run by AI agents and things like this. To what extent do you think that this is already a close revolution, or this is a vision that will be in the future?
I think it's a future vision. I mean, AI is still in its infancy, but it's coming. And all those things are going to happen, which you said. But that doesn't mean that there's no room for people. The people will just have different jobs that they have to do. And remember, the AI stuff needs to also have some guardrails around it, and be managed by the people. So I think it's going to be great in many ways, as long as we can stay in front of those bad actors.
I would try to suggest that AI, for me, it's like the word technology 20 years ago. I mean, many people that when they say, do you have AI, they mean totally different things, but AI, do you have AI in your, yeah, of course, we have AI. All these things are really what we had technology 20 years ago. And therefore, when we talk about security for AI, I see companies that I ask them, do you do AI security? Yes, of course. And there are zillion of interpretations what they protect. One protect the training data, the other one, most of them protect the LLMs and others. So this is a huge domain that will be later on with different categories, and it will be different companies with different goals and things like this. Since we have short time, I want to ask you the last question. You visit Israel often, and you enjoy to come here, and you also shared with us other not professional reasons to come to Israel, which we really like to hear. But on the professional level, coming to Israel, what is the thing that you find here? What is the reason that you believe that other like executives and leaders will come to find here in Israel in cyber perspective? So
nobody does innovation like the Israelis do. Nobody. And that's vitally important, not just in the cybersecurity field. But when you kind of look at the whole ecosystem here, so good thing and bad thing about Israel is that it's small. It's a small country. It's a bad thing because you got too many people for a small country. But it's a good thing because what happens is these people come out of government, they have to innovate inside government. Why? Because your government, the nature of the politics is that your government is attacked all the time. And so you have to be incredibly innovative to be able to combat those attacks. And then people see that, government workers see this, and as they come out of government, they turn that into companies because they realize that the same attacks that are happening against the Israeli government can be happening against Citibank, JP Morgan, whoever, okay? And so you guys are forced to be innovative, and you've got it down to a science. And this is why I first started coming to Israel. It wasn't because, it was actually before my daughter moved here. And so that's the reason I keep coming back. I love Cyber Week. I love cyber tech. I think you guys you do a fantastic job of bringing other people in to see exactly what you're doing. And I love working with the startup companies here.
Amazing. Bob, thank you very much. Thank you, Manny and the team, to running this event, and enjoy Cyber Week. Thank you.